anything else. You're going to golf, you're going to learn how to play tennis, ski. You need to be with someone, learn off of them, one-on-one. Now that can be really expensive, cost thousands of dollars, but I have a program that you can join for 10 days free.
Go to philsgang.com and sign up for a free 10-day trial. Phil Grande has developed tools to teach you how to invest in stocks properly. Not only when to buy stocks, but how to sell stocks short.
85% of people in the market lose money. Get out of that group by just joining Phil's gang.
Now you can learn to invest like a pro with a pro, Phil Grande. Take advantage of this special offer for a free 10-day trial at philsgang.com.
Try it. 10 days free.
That's philsgang.com.
philsgang.com. Whoa.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Network.
Oh, God. Are you nuts?
With your host, Phil Grande.
Bye.
And good afternoon, and welcome to my podcast. Well, here we are, Thanksgiving. The market, one day they'll tell us, okay, it's on the table, we're going to cut rates. Next day, no, we're not going to cut rates. So we just have to wait and see. But here's the problem with cutting rates. It doesn't mean it's going to be good. Cutting rates doesn't mean that the purpose of cutting the Fed rate is to get the 10-year Treasury yield down, because the 10-year Treasury yield is what controls what we pay on our credit cards, our mortgage, especially mortgages, and therefore automobiles, business loans. I mean, it is the economy. That 10-year Treasury yield means a lot, but you got to get the Fed rate down first, because they don't control the 10-year, and then they hope to get the 10-year Treasury yield to drop. Now, they can control it using QE, but QE is a killer. QE is inflation. We saw that when they started QE after 2008. QE is where they go print all this money, have the Treasury print money, and then they go and take all that money and they go and buy 10-year Treasury. So the Fed has the Treasury print money, Treasury gives it to the Fed, Fed gives it to the five biggest banks. The five biggest banks go and buy all these Treasuries, and then they also take all this money and they go back to the banks and buy all their assets. So they are chock full of cash, so they can send that cash to CEOs to do stock buybacks. So just because they say we can cut these rates, everything's going to be wonderful, and you see the market, when they say, oh, gee, we're not going to cut, the market goes down 300-400 points. When they say, we're putting it back on the table, the market goes up 300-400 points. Ridiculous. Many are wrong. When they cut rates, we can see the 10-year Treasury go the other way. We can see the 10-year Treasury go up, and I think that's what's going to happen. Interest rates are going to go up, not down. The market's smart, especially the bond market. Mr. Bond Market's pretty smart. And the fear, you start cutting that Fed rate, you got inflation again. And the 10-year Treasury, Mr. 10-year Treasury, he's going to want to go up, not down. That could be a killer. But what's really interesting, what's going on, is that we have a real frustration with the president going on right now. He's very frustrated because he wants Powell to cut those rates. But we're still not at 3%. Remember, we're supposed to be at 3%. That was the target. We're not there. Excuse me, 2%, but we're not there. We're at 3. We're supposed to be there at 2, and we can't get there. So the president's very frustrated. You can't blame him. He's also frustrated. He told the Republicans they're doing a terrible job. They're not getting the word out and how well we have done as we've been in, on our 11th month here. We've done well. He's frustrated. And the folks aren't giving him credit, or the Republicans. Now, I think he's wrong at that. They are giving him credit. But we understand what's going on. We understand what he did. He did a fantastic job. Okay? I mean, there's just no question. He got rid of 8 wars. That's a terrific job. Who could do that? I mean, who could do that? He also, remember, got rid of their corporate taxes from 35% to 21%. That's good. That's terrific. Are you kidding me? Thank God for that. Corporate taxes under the other guy, under Biden. Are you kidding? 36%? So they could do this crazy stuff, woke, and all that. No, so he did. He got it from 35% to 21%. And then he doubled the standard deduction. And also, remember, from $6,500 to $12,000 for individuals and $13,000 to $24,000 for families. I mean, that's a pretty good deduction. It's doubled. What's wrong with that? Then you had the doubling of the child tax credit, increased from $1,000 to $2,000 per qualified child under age 17. I mean, unbelievable. He also put a cap on the state and local tax deductions, limited to $10,000. Elimination of the corporate alternative minimum tax, the AMT, remember that one? And no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. Boy, for the Social Security, those people really got a break. Really got a break. I mean, no tax on Social Security, that's terrific. Closed borders, are you kidding me? No men in women's sports and no more transgender for everyone and no more transgender singing and dancing on the White House lawn. That was good. They ended DEI. I mean, I could go on all day. I'll bore you. But here's the problem. Believe me, the people appreciate what he has done. But it's your wallet. It's your wallet. He's got to get to the wallet. That's the problem. Now, he's done some good things, especially with the tips when that goes through. But the president is frustrated. And he's got to understand, he looks at the stock market, and he says, man, look how the stock market's booming. Why am I rating so low? Well, wait a minute. The stock market wealth, remember, is $57 trillion. That's what it's worth, the market, about $57 trillion. Pretty close to that. But a very small group of people, very wealthy people, Wall Street people, control 93% of the $57 trillion. Main Street doesn't get anything out of the stock. Oh, don't tell me about the 401k, that garbage. Are you kidding me? That's a failed experiment. Are you nuts? 401k, boy, you get screwed with that. It's unbelievable. Think about it. Every time we have a crisis, you lose an average of about 30%, and you can't short. If you lose 30%, you got to get back 42% to break even. So see, the president doesn't understand. The market doesn't help about 90% of the people. It doesn't help. 401ks are useless. They're a failed experiment. So if you keep losing, like we did, about 25 to 30% in all our pullbacks, just look at 2008, look at COVID. You need to make back between 33 and 42% to get your money back to break even. You know what it takes to get 33% gains? You don't even get 9%. You get, if you're lucky in a 401k, you get about 4.5%, 5%. If you're lucky. And even if you get better than that, if you get to 10, it's all taken away from you anyways, because you never get out before there's a correction. Think about everybody in a 401k. When you're in a 401k, you're always going to lose. Now, when the market's going up, like it's been going up, and it's terrific, and people feel wealthy, and they get their report in the mail, they throw it in a drawer, they don't even look at it, they feel rich. No, you're renting that money. It's a rental program. That's what a 401k is. It's a rental. You're just renting the money because you have to give it back. Because when the market crashes, it goes down. But, They tell you, no, don't you short. Don't you dare short. Matter of fact, they made rules you can't short a 401k. You are not allowed. You got to sit there and get slaughtered. And when it goes down 25%, how are you going to get 25% back? How are you going to get back? You got to have a 40%. So let's say you lose 25%. You got to get at least 35% gains to get your losses back. That's impossible. So the president doesn't understand the 401k. People aren't happy with. What if people getting out of 401ks are getting screwed? And they're getting screwed with the fees. Okay, an average person in a 401k, let's see who he is. He's about 55, he makes about $55,000 a year. On average. They put in about 6% into their 401k to get their full company match. That is a joke. Plus their company puts in, this is the match, that 8%. And they steal that back from you in hidden fees, but we'll talk about that another day. 8%.
5 minutes.
That's about a 14% combined. You combine that, it's about 14%. Most had to up, and you know this is true, you're doing it. Most of you are upping your contribution from at least 6% to 10% because your 401k in the last few years, while the market's going nuts, has been stagnant. What are you, nuts? In fact, the majority of 401ks have dropped. I'll bet you go check. The majority of 401ks have dropped in this boom between $6,000 and $8,000. Unbelievable. So a person that's looking to retire, he's in trouble. He's in trouble with that 401k. It doesn't work. The pension worked. So the president wants to know why people are frustrated with him. They're not really frustrated with him. They're frustrated with the situation. They know the good he's done. But it's not showing up in their wallet. They're not showing up in the wallet. That's the problem. All the money's going to institutional investors. They're making all the money. And remember about inflation. People forget about inflation. You got to be patient because inflation is measured at a rate in which it's coming down. That's right. At a rate in which it comes down. It's slow. It's painful. Grocery, eggs are down 29%. Oil's down 25%. That's good. Coffee, though, still up 14%. Meats are still up 9%. Shelter's still up about 3%. Rent is up at least 25% over 6 years. Household expenses gone from 30% to 50%. Mortgage rates have doubled since 2022. Savings lowest ever. 2.3%. The highest delinquencies we have in mortgages, car payments, credit cards. We've never seen delinquencies like this. And the stock market boom is in a handful of tech stocks, about 6 tech stocks. And they're in question right now, these tech stocks. But Trump looks at the market, he doesn't understand. All he hears about AI. Well, AI is coming under attack right now. So 36%, about 36% approve of President Trump's handling of the economy. 36%, that's really it. 68% of Americans are viewing the economy as negative, and only about 32% describe it as good. Those are the real numbers, not the numbers you get on TV. Stock market's booming. But guess what? All the wealth goes to a very small percent of people on Wall Street. Job sentiment is everything. 68% of Americans are not buying into the economy booming. The jobs are booming. Last week they came out and they celebrated 190,000 jobs, they said, for September. Well, wait a minute. How about from January to September to where we are today? We're down 800,000 jobs. The 190,000 jobs in September, that's helpful. That's great. But you're still down 800,000 some odd jobs.
1 minute.
We never had such bad sentiment. 18 to 34 years old are worried about losing their jobs. The highest worry on record. We never had 18 to 34-year-olds losing jobs, about 34%. 35 to 54, highest on record, highest worry on record at 30%. 55%,
30 seconds.
55 years of age. 15% are worried. We never had these kind of worries. Consumers are struggling. Job openings are terrible. We dropped from 10.7 million to 7 million. So yes, Trump's a very smart man. But he's looking at all the things he's done, and people are grateful, especially closing that damn border and all this other stuff. Whoa. But it's not helping their wallet. We'll talk about the market when we get back.
Want more information on this show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
When you listen to the advice of Phil Grande at philsgang.com, you'll find investing in the stock market makes sense with the right guidance.
People keep saying to me, boy, things are hard, things are tough. Boy, the market's really screwed up. And I don't agree with them. For us here at Phil's Gang, we make it so it's simple. It doesn't matter if the market's bad or good. We consistently do well because we make it simple. And just like for my listeners on the radio or on the internet or my podcast, we make it simple. We try to break it down so you really understand why the market is going up or why there's continued inflation or why the bank rates are going up. So you understand, especially yields. The most important thing to understand how yields work. Just what we do. We work hard at it.
Trusted advice, easy to understand strategies that will make you a better investor. Get all the details at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Welcome back. Learn, invest, and make profits with Phil Grande. Simply go to philsgang.com. Now, here's Phil.
And welcome back, Phil's Gang. Okay, so let's talk about the market. Let's talk about some stocks. Let's talk about the big problem. Powell's December rate cut is going to weaken the dollar. This is bad. Already, American households, those making between $55,000 and $75,000 a year are getting screwed because they're losing purchasing power with their dollars. Prices are rising faster than salaries. Example, since July 2020 to October 2025, year-over-year wages have only increased 2.5%. That's the weakest wage growth in 7 years. Now, here's what you got to listen to. Powell is not independent. Powell is owned by Wall Street. Powell is owned by the 1/100th of 1%. Not the 1%, the 1/100th of 1 percentile. They own everything. He works for them. So they told Powell to increase the credit card availability. People are having trouble. The delinquencies are terrible. Household debt delinquencies, credit card delinquencies, automobiles, all these delinquencies. But he said they told him increase availability on the credit card. So wages have only increased 2.5%. And what he did, the credit card, listen to this, credit card balances rose by $67 billion. Now that's the credit card balances year over year to $1.2 trillion. That's an all-time high. Now today, there's still availability because he did that of $41.1 trillion. People who are now in delinquency in their cars, their home, their credit cards, automobiles, have no savings, tapped out. They've increased the availability. They made their partner, Wall Street made their partner Powell increase the availability by $41.1 trillion. During the same time, credit card limits surged a record $1.5 trillion. Outpacing the $430 billion increase in credit card debt. This is amazing. Yet banks, since 2020, their debt has rose by $67 billion. $67 billion. They raised credit card limits by $1.5 trillion. So the outstanding credit card balances now are at $1.2 trillion. That's a record. Rose by $67 billion. So in 2020, they shoved in enough money to raise up $67 billion. So the outstanding credit card balances at a record $1.2 trillion, rose by $67 billion. To make sure people right now have $4.1 trillion still available. I'm sorry, not 41 trillion, 4.1 trillion. I think I said 41.1 trillion, 41 trillion. So this is placing the total credit card limit at a record 5.3 trillion, outpacing the 430 billion increased debt. So in other words, people are not making enough money to cover their credit cards. So what are they doing? Increasing the balances. Take a look at this card. Look at this chart, credit card capacity. Look at this. Credit card balances. Look how they're soaring here. So here's the 4.1 trillion. See it right here? Unbelievable. Here's your credit limit. Look at the credit limit. They keep expanding that credit limit. And see how they're taking this? Pushing the credit limit up on people who are broke. So they have 4.1 trillion available, so they'll go spend, so Wall Street earnings will be up. Look at that. They're putting them down into a black hole. The other thing is going into a black hole, and we'll talk about that if I don't run out of time, is all these AI stocks. Inflation, don't listen to anybody. They're saying, oh, we got inflation cut. No, they don't. This is going to be terrible. If he cuts these rates while our inflation's increasing, take a look at it right here. Inflation, see the purple here, taking off? There it is, right there. And here's your wages. See how the wages are going down? So wages continue to go, you can see right here where it's this little square. Wages are starting to go down, inflation's taking off. Just like what happened back here. See what happened back here? Same thing. Same thing going on. Here's the jobs. Look at the jobs. No wonder they're scared to death. The ages 18 to 34. And the age is 36, 35 to 54, 55 plus. They just gave you those numbers. They're scared to death. Now let's talk about this wonderful AI. Well, Microsoft, Intel, Dell, Cisco, remember those guys? They're in 2008. We just replaced them with Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, and Oracle. That's all. We just did a swap. But this is going to be far worse. But you're going to be okay if you know how to sell short. You know, the beautiful thing about the stock market, it's so financially engineered. You're going to get volatility, a lot of volatility. If you don't know how to short, you hate volatility. You can't make money in the stock market unless you have volatility, but they'll never tell you that. They're not going to tell you that. Wall Street's not going to tell you that. They love volatility. I love volatility. My gang members love volatility. That's how you make money. Get the markets bouncing back and forth all over the place. But you got to know how to sell short. But people are scared. Wall Street's taking parking space in their head, made them fearful. So, last week, September, 119,000 jobs, the thrill of victory. Everybody was celebrating. Turned into the agony of defeat when we found out what? Well, if you go back from January to October, 4 weeks later than September, we're still down 806,000 jobs. Why? AI. Now, NVIDIA rallied and then gave it all back for two reasons. It was short covering rally. We had a short covering rally. Once the new money came in, the rally, everybody that was short, okay, had to cover their positions. And as I told my members, we knew it was going to happen, and we told it was clear as the sunshine. Let's sell into this rally because it's going to be over. Now there's too much worry about AI. One of the biggest worries is the smart money, the institutional money, and they're worried about NVIDIA. Because NVIDIA right now, it looks like they're cooking the books. People are worried. So again, if you look at Oracle, they're worried about Oracle because, remember, Oracle put a deal together with OpenAI in September. Now they're in the hole, $315 billion. And they're going to have negative cash flow for the next 5 years. Now, you don't have to worry. That's Oracle. Now, OpenAI is a private company, but it's very important because everybody makes a deal with OpenAI. Cash burn a year is $9.3 billion. But wait a minute, their profits are only $3.7 billion. And they're saying they're healthy? How can they be healthy if they're burning $9.3 billion? Thank God they're not public. Everybody be in it. Yet their profits are $3.7 billion? You holding on to your hat? Strap up, listen to this. NVIDIA generated $14.5 billion in cash, yet it reports $19.3 billion in profits? Well, that's a magic trick, isn't it? Let me repeat. NVIDIA generated $14.5 billion, but they're reporting profits of $19.3 billion. That's a magic act. That's a gap of almost $5 billion. They have unpaid bills. They can't pay their bills of $33.4 billion. That's an 89% increase in 12 months. I'll repeat, they can't pay their payables, $33.4 billion. This is the company that's holding up the entire global market. An 89% increase in 12 months in unpaid bills. Receivables, here's their problem. They're having trouble getting paid. Just a 1 week delay. A company doesn't send in a check, just a 1 week delay. They're in the hole, cash flow negative, $10.4 billion. Inventory is building up like crazy. $19.9 billion in unsold chips. $20 billion in chips. That's an increase of 32% in 90 days. Let's go back to the revenue. All right, they generated $14 billion $14.5 billion in cash, yet they're reporting $19.3 billion in profits. Nobody can figure it out. They got a gap of $5 billion. Now, the same dollars, here's how they do it. They call it VEPing, or vibing, V-I-B-E. Here's how they play the game. So, the same dollars circle through different companies and get counted as revenue multiple times. NVIDIA books sales, but nobody actually pays. Nobody pays. The bills age, the chips and the inventory pile up, and the cash never comes. NVIDIA gave $2 billion. Here's how it's done. NVIDIA gave $2 billion to what we call XAI. XAI then borrows $12 billion to buy NVIDIA chips. Microsoft gave OpenAI $13 billion. OpenAI commits $50 billion. I'll put it up here for you. I mean, this is amazing. And more stories are coming out about NVIDIA. But they'll be okay. They'll mask it. Look at NVIDIA. How on earth? Thank God for my Pro 2 color-coded chart. I designed this back in 1998. It follows the money. We knew this stock was in trouble. Here, let me put my tool on. I'll go up here, put my little yellow warning tool on. Look at that. Look how the yellow started to come in October. That meant money was starting to come out. Institutions were pulling money out. And then by October 31, that was it. The FOMOs came in and started to buy like crazy. October 29th, October 31, October 30th. The FOMOs going in there buying like crazy right at the peak. And then we were ready to sell short. Look at that. And then, remember they had that big rally, right? And then they gave it all back. How could you buy these stocks from November 3rd to today with the trend going down? If you know how to follow a trend, you know how to sell short, you'll never get hurt with the financial engineering. We'll help you with that. Phil's Gang, check us out. 10 days free.
Listening to Phil's Gang with your host, Phil Grande, on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Remember to visit Phil's website at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Or call the office, 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.